Hi, welcome back everyone. This is going to be a true POE build with some cool interactions, so if you have interest in playing it or just want to learn something new about POE, make sure that you don't skip around. Also try to make this build not that expensive and you should be able to buy everything for less than 50 divines. But before we begin, a quick shout out to my subscribers and patrons. Thank you guys. And if you want to see me play and create builds live, don't forget to follow me on Twitch. Now let's get started. There is a cool unique shield in the game, and I'm talking about Vortex's Machination. I have been wanting to make a build with it for quite some time now. This shield grabs off several keystones. Let's start with the Divine Flash. Divine Flash makes 50% of elemental damage taken as a chaos damage, and gives us +5 to maximum chaos resistance. Damage conversion is really great way to scale the defenses, so I decided to invest into it even further. We can convert remaining half of the elemental damage using Little Pride Jewel with Tempered by War Keystone. This way we don't care about lightning and cold resistances at all, and it's easier to scale the defenses. Since we only take chaos, fire and physical damage, the Doppelganger body armor is perfect for a build, as it will grant us 40% less damage taken. Combine it with the Arctic armor, Flesh and Stone, and we have somewhat decent amount of less damage taken. Now let's talk about another keystone from the shield. Everlasting Sacrifice is a keystone that comes only from the shield and you cannot get it anywhere else. It will grant us +5 to maximum resistances for 4 seconds by sacrificing all energy shield when we reach full energy shield. Combine it with the +5 from Divine Flash, we get 85% of maximum chaos resistance and 80% of fire res. Using Ruby Flask with increased effect will allow us to push maximum fire resistance even further. But this shield comes with several downsides, which we need to address. First is Immortal Ambition. It makes us lose 5% of ES per second and it won't allow us to recharge or regenerate ES. So we need to think of a way for us to constantly get energy shield to full. And here's where Pathfinder comes to help. Combination of Life Flask, Master Surgeon and Replica Sorrow of the Divine Flask will solve this problem entirely, since Life Flask will recover ES as well. Plus, being Pathfinder will give us some necessary flask effect in order for us to get more maximum resistance from the Ruby Flask. But now we have last downside of the shield that we need to address, and it's Vow Pact. Vow Pact completely removes all life recovery other than from Leech. Life Flask, Recoup, Regeneration, Gain on hit, Gain from Defiance, nothing will work. So now we are kinda forced to play the skill which will allow us to leech, and ideally it should be a melee skill, because Vow Pact makes leech from melee instant. So now let's talk about the main skill. I decided to use Rage Vortex of Berserking. This skill is one of the skills in the game with snapshotting effect. I'm not going to explain in the detail what the snapshotting is, but basically when you use the gem it will remember snapshot everything when you used it. So it will allow us to do some crazy interaction. I have my Rage Vortex of Berserker linked in the weapon swap, where I have Influence weapon with support modifiers in it, plus the default Squire shield. So this way I can get my Rage Vortex being 9+ links depending on your budget. How we are going to benefit from it? We weapon swap, use Rage Vortex with this setup, and then swap back into our main running setup with Vortex's Machination and Paradoxica. Rage Vortex will snapshot its original gems, but still will do damage with Paradoxica. Cool, right? But that's not the end. To boost the damage even further, I'm going to use Ambush skill. This way we can get crit cap without any problems, since we are attacking only once. But now we need to somehow generate enough rage so that we can sustain Rage Vortex. Usually people are going mana stack and use Chainbreaker Keystone, but I decided to go completely the other way. In this version I'm using Chains of the Emancipation unique belt. Most of you probably never even heard of it, and some of you might recognize this belt from Perma WoW skills built from some time ago. It has a couple of interesting lines. When you lose temporal chains, you gain maximum rage. Basically it means if we can somehow lose temporal chains, we can sustain rage indefinitely. But it comes with the own downside. The belt will make you immune to curses while you have at least 25 rage. So now we somehow need to get cursed with temp chains constantly. Default method would be to use Wrathblood Promise and socket temp chains in it. It will fix the problem of being inflicted with the temp chains, but we need somehow to lose it in order for us to gain maximum rage. So in the default build you would gain some rage from the Chainbreaker, but for this build it won't be really enough. You could try to use Witchbane unique jewel, which will grant you immunity to the curse when you killed an enemy. It will work, but not for bossing. So I decided to use another way, and I'm talking about Shackles of the Rage gloves. This is the second and last way to self-curse in the game. Hexes applied by Socketed curse skills in the gloves are reflected back at us. Unfortunately, the curse must be socketed in the glove, and curses from corruption won't be reflected back. There are several ways for us to reliably curse enemies with the gloves. With something like Shield Charge linked with Hex Touch, or link temp chains with the Hexblom support, and for the last, which I decided to use, is default Blade Vow of Thratos from this league. And since we are the Pathfinder and using Infinite Life Flask and Replica Sword of the Divine, we don't care about mana cost of the skill, which is perfect. But now we need to fix last problem. We need to somehow reliably lose the curse in order for us to benefit from the belt. So I hope you are kinda guessing what I'm going to say right now. And I'm hinting about reducing the curse duration. With a combination of Dust Ring from the haste, couple of passes on the tree with Anoint, and level 2 Hex Touch, I'm reducing the duration of Temp Chains by 99%. And this means that as soon as we curse the enemy with Bladefall, the curse will be reflected back at us and almost instantly expire. So this way we are going to get maximum rage. And last but not least, since we're reducing the duration of the curse, we can use new unique ring, Calling Whispers. Everything synergizes perfectly for this ring, and we'll be having 45 souls at all time. Combining everything above will allow us to sustain Rage Vortex or Berserking for around 1.5 minutes for a single target. But the denser the map, the longer you can sustain it. The only thing stopping us from reaching infinite sustain is the fact that Bladefall has an internal cooldown of 0.7 seconds. So if the rage cost is high enough to drain fully in that cooldown window, the Rage Vortex will stop. And if I'm not forgetting anything, this should be it when it comes to the key and interesting interactions. What do you think about it? If you like the idea, don't forget to like, subscribe and follow me on Twitch, so that you can see some cool builds in the future. Also, if you only saw a couple of my videos, don't forget to check my older uploads, as you definitely will find something interesting, cool and off-meta there. Now let's continue with the gear. Most of the gear is unique, so it's easy to follow, but make sure that you get good rolls on necessary mods. This build struggles with attributes, so you'll be required to tinker around with the cluster jewels in order for you to get enough for everything. For the weapons, I'm using Paradoxica with increased physical damage and attack speed. Mahusoto's shield with maximum life corruption. For the weapon swap, you should use any sword or axe with as much links as you can get. 40% more attack damage and melee physical are the best for the damage. Increased critical strike chance does nothing, as we are crit capped without it, but don't get multi-strike. The multi-strike breaks the ambush, so it's important that you don't buy a weapon with multi-strike and don't use it in the gems. And for the shield, obviously Square. The helmet is a heat shield with ideally as much fire resistance as possible and 90% reservation corruption. Without it, we won't have enough reservation. The body is Doppelganger with 40% less damage. Corruption is not necessary, and I was just lucky to snipe it for cheap. Shackles of the Rage Shield with +1 Frenzy Corruption. For the boots, I'm using Darkwave Vectors, as I decided to go for the Frenzy Charge Stacker route for the damage. For the amulet, I'm using Maraline's Fallacy. Since we are getting a lot of base critical strike chance from the ambush, we gain insane amount of crit multi from it. Don't forget to catalyst it. The only rare piece of the gear is Dusk Ring, in the left socket. To craft it, you just spam Essences of Suffering until you hit tier 1 life with 1 open suffix and prefix. If you have 2 open suffixes or 3, then just craft random prefix and Exalt Slam. Now, when you have Essence mode, T1 life, 2 random suffixes, and open prefix and suffix, you craft some random suffix and use Elder Exalt Slam and hope to get good prefix. Then you just lock prefixes and reforge Chaos. Depending on the rolls of the rest of the gear, T2 might be enough. Then finish the craft with a crafted Strength and Intelligence, as this build struggles with attributes. Second ring is Calling Whisper with 23% Chaos roll. Try to get as much Chaos stress as possible on the belt with some good corruption, for example like all resistances. The flasks are Life Flask with T1 recovery, you just alt spam for it and then use Beastcraft for CB and Blink immunity. Tincture with increased elemental damage, increased effect and Elepan. Unfortunately, mana burn is not affected by Eldritch Battery from the flask, so the uptime is kinda mediocre. Amethyst Flask with effect and T1 reduced curse effect. Ruby Flask with 49% and higher shock avoidance and increased effect. And Replica Sword of the Divine. And now let's talk about the tree. I'm getting all Frenzy nodes, reduced duration, some life nodes, Cult Mastery, Elemental Mastery, some sword passives, crit, accuracy and reservation, and some cold damage tattoos. For the Ascendancy, Nature's Adrenaline, Master Surgeon, Nature's Boon and Master Alchemist. Now let's talk about the jewels. You will be required to tinker around with clusters so that you can fill missing attributes and resistors requirements. Always check your POB for the requirements and resistance before buying. I'm using 2 large clusters with Calamicious, Feed the Fury and Martial Prowess. Then 3 mediums with Magnifier and Titanic Threat. And 1 small reservation cluster with 35% increased effect. Depending on the rest of the clusters, you don't really need anything special here. For me, I don't think that I even need anything except the fire resistance. Don't forget that you can change the resistances on clusters via Harvest Bench. Again, make sure that you POB your clusters so that you can get enough of everything. Then for the rest of the duos, I'm using Watchers with high roll of cold conversion and gain flask charges with precision. Storm Shroud for ailment immunity, Forbidden Set with the avidity, and Lithopride. Lithopride is really important. You need to get as much strength as you can get and have at least one rage on hit. You can use either web version or you can find the duo in the POB. Click Find Timeless Duo, enter duo type, Conquer, Jevo Socket, Filter, and search for rage on hit and strength. Then just click search. You need to have at least one rage. Then double click on it and insert it into your build and check the passives. Then you can just click copy trait URL and paste it into your browser. Don't forget to check the numbers and even better, insert the duo back at your POB and check it again. Now let's talk about the gems. For the main links, I'm using Rage Vortex or Berserking, Ice Bite, Fortify, Elemental Damage with attacks. It's ideal to use Awakened ones so that you are immune to reflective damage, Pulverize, and Hypothermia. The rest of the links comes from your weapon that you bought. Then in the body armor, 3-link Phase Run with Mod Duration and Enhance. Other 3 links are Summon Flame Golem, Withering Step, and Automation. Then in the gloves, Bladefall of Thratos with Tame Champs level 1, Hex Touch level 2, and increased area for better coverage. In the running shield, Shield Charge with faster attacks and Enhance. Don't forget that if you use any skill, your phase run will be removed. In the boots, SN Mark with Mark on Hit, Ambush, and Prestige level 18. In the Paradoxica, Custom Damage Taken Immortal Call setup with increased duration. And the Aura setup in the helmet with Flesh and Stone, Hatred, Arctic Armor, and Heart of Ash or Purity. And last but not least, the Mercenary. I'm using Strength and Dexterity Mercenary with Rallying Cry and Allied Steel Skin. His weapon is two-handed axe with as high physical damage as you can get, helmet with War Cry, body with Life, Resistance and War Cry effect, blind gloves so that we can annoy Deep Breath, boots with Rallying Cry effect with some life and resistances, Yoke of Suffering for some damage, and a pair of rings with elemental damage, life, resistance and recoup. And for the belt, Calm's Binding for more survivability. Now let's talk about how to play this build. It's pretty simple. You enter the map, press Flasks, activate Bladefall of Thratos, get some rage, use Ambush, use Rage Vortex, and then weapon swap and run around. To get more damage, use Phase Run, but if you want to zoom the map, then don't use Phase Run and just Shield Charge around. Don't forget that Phase Run removes Frenzy Charges, which drops the damage by half, so you press Phase Run once every 20 seconds or so. For bosses, you can press Phase Run, run around, so that you can freeze from ability, and then press Tincture for even more damage. Don't forget to use your Life Flask, because without it, Bladefall will be deactivated and you won't gain any rage. And this is it when it comes to the build. It's really fun build with a lot of cool interactions. It's not perfect by any means, but for this cost it's more than enough for me, and I enjoy theory crafting it a lot. Also, I'm selling this build, so if you're interested, you can message me in the Discord server. Well, this is it guys. If you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and follow me on Twitch. If you want to support me financially, there are links in the description below. And I will see you in the next one. Bye!